there, friends. Welcome back again. We are to chapter 21 of Rolling Thunder today. An Unseen Enemy. One day in March 1972, Rolling Thunder left the Grateful Dead's ranch house in Navato carrying a blanket, his pipe, his medicine fan, and walked into the woods. When he found a proper spot, he spread the blanket on the ground under a tree and situated himself with his medicine fan before him. He was thin and weak, and his hair had begun to gray rapidly. In the past several weeks, he had been too busy to defend himself against the efforts that were being made to destroy him. He did not want contest. He did not want to engage in a struggle. He had hoped to go on with his work and to be able to remain aloof from this destructive force, but he was beginning to feel tired and confused and indifferent even to his work. Now he had come to this spot with his pipe and his medicine fan to work on himself, to get himself together and deal with this unseen enemy. He knew he had not come a moment too soon. He planned to find some herbs and a special plant to put in his pipe, so he left his medicine fan on the blanket and, holding his pipe, walked into the bushes in front of him to search for the plants. He became disoriented and confused. In the brush under the hot sun, as far as his eyes could see, there was no sign to show where he was. Something was wrong. He began to wonder how he had reached this place and why he was here. He had forgotten where he had come from. He vaguely remembered that he had come here to doctor himself, and he remembered that he had spread a blanket under a tree, but he could not think where the blanket was. He fought to keep conscious. He knew he must keep breathing, keep his eyes open and get back to the blanket. He must get to his medicine fan. But his thoughts were drifting, and he could not hang on to them. He was too tired and too weak. He let go, and then there was darkness. A group of traditional native people met in San Rafael in late January to begin work of establishing a foundation whose purpose was to preserve the traditional culture and teachings of Native Americans. There had been tribal and intertribal powwows, medicine lodges, and chiefs and elder council meetings even before the arrival of white men. But the people gathered in San Rafael were responding in a more modern way. They intended to meet those complicated procedural requirements that would enable them to be recognized by a white man and white law, and to enjoy the legal advantage of foundation which could be of immense value to Native people and to the land itself. The January meeting took place at the office of the Grateful Dead in San Rafael, with members of the group and other non-native friends observing. At this meeting also was Samu Hayote, a medicine man from Southern California who frequently traveled along with young natives from many tribes. A native woman whom Rolling Thunder had first met at one of his press conferences in Caliente, Nevada, was there with her Berkeley lawyer. In the weeks that followed, a number of meetings were held in San Rafael and San Francisco. Each time Rolling Thunder made the 650-mile trip west from Carlin, and Samu Hayote drove up from Los Angeles. As the charter for the foundation began to take form, trouble arose. The native woman's lawyer, who had initially volunteered advice and services, had made himself the foundation's attorney and demanded what Rolling Thunder and Samu felt was an extremely high fee for his work in drawing up the charter. This lawyer's next move had been to make the woman the permanent chairperson of the foundation, certified by the charter and bylaws he was drawing up. She then set up her own office in Berkeley with funds that were to have been made for transportation and expenses of out-of-town members. Rolling Thunder and Samu both felt bewildered by this unauthorized activity, and the two medicine men began to wonder whether the woman and her lawyer might not be working against them and the aims Rolling Thunder and Samu had so long shared. Since the woman was the only member of the original group who lived in the Bay Area, her influence had dominated from the very beginning, And she had the lawyer. Rolling Thunder had wondered at the wisdom of involving these people, but he had thought it was Samu's wishes, since the woman had claimed to be his friend. When Rolling Thunder and Samu had separate private meetings, these facts finally came out. On March 5th, the Grateful Dead performed their benefit concert at Winterland in San Francisco. Rolling Thunder came to San Francisco for the concert, bringing Spotted Fawn, his sons Buffalo Horse and Spotted Eagle, and his daughter Morning Star and her husband. The concert was a success, and a considerable amount of money was raised for the foundation, but the events that followed were difficult and dangerous. The foundation did not yet legally exist, as there had been many obstacles to the completion of the charter. So the Grateful Dead's lawyers proposed to hold the money until the necessary legalities had been completed. The chairperson, however, insisted on having possession, or at least control, of the funds. After several days of hostility and threats of violence and lawsuits, the money, in form of a check made out to the would-be foundation, turned up in her hands in such a way that it appeared to be an accident. Rolling Thunder began to learn that the faction represented by the chairperson and her lawyer were willing to use whatever methods were at their disposal to retain control of the foundation and its funds. After the check had been deposited, Rolling Thunder and Spotted Fawn were in the Grateful Dead's office when someone called claiming to be one of the woman's warriors, and boasted that this place was about to be burned and that Rolling Thunder's life was finished. Not knowing where Rolling Thunder was, these warriors hunted him. Once or twice, they forced their way into homes where Rolling Thunder might be staying. They sent for a young native witch doctor to make powerful medicine to do away with Rolling Thunder. This man came from far away and began his voodoo-like activities while the others made sure Rolling Thunder heard the details about the medicine that was being made against him. They wanted him to feel intimidated and afraid. Rolling Thunder did not wish to respond. He wanted to think of this mischief as a minor annoyance. The opposition was not important, and, he felt, not particularly intelligent. But the work of these people and their sorcerer was beginning to make its mark on him. Now he and others around him were becoming weak and disorganized. Rolling Thunder often considered that good, useful thoughts or deeds coexist with an opposing potential. He was forced to admit that this destructive will and energy represented opposing forces that had been arranged by the good work that he, Samu, and the others had begun. The real object of the destructive fashion had to be more than money. They had played central roles in the foundation from the beginning, and there were many tactics that could be used and have been employed to gain power without revealing themselves so soon. They played central roles in the foundation from the beginning. There were many tactics that they could have employed to gain power without revealing themselves too soon. Now the struggle had become tremendous, and the very existence of the foundation was in question. Rolling Thunder continued to work for some sort of harmonious settlement. He hoped that the Grateful Dead's efforts would come to the good for which they were intended, and that somehow the right kind of foundation could be created out of this effort. He persevered when the situation seemed to be hopelessly difficult, even when he became increasingly ill. Soon he saw the gravity of what was happening to him. He saw that this was a challenge that could have to be met on every level on which it had come. It was nearly too late. The big dog that lived at the ranch came trotting back to the house while Spotted Fawn and the others sat inside and talked. When the dog reached the door, it appeared that it had a bird in its mouth. Spotted Fawn looked closely. The bird was Rolling Thunder's medicine fan. She perceived the situation immediately. Spotted Fawn had been with Rolling Thunder since the concert at Winterland. Through all his efforts, first to resolve the matter of the unfinished charter, and later to trace the missing money, and then, through the hostile threats and the messages, that medicine was being made to see his death. She had been confident that Rolling Thunder would not be seriously harmed by the witch doctor's devices. She felt sure that if Rolling Thunder could disengage completely, he would not be affected. But recently, even she could not pretend to see that these forces had been without effect. She had watched him weaken, and now she knew she must find him at once. The dog led the way to the blanket under the tree. It took only a moment's search to find where Rolling Thunder lay unconscious. He was carried back to the ranch house. Rolling Thunder reached me by telephone at Dolly Gazzotti's house in the Berkeley Hills. You know that lawyer you've talked to me about? What's his name? The one we've been trying to get together with? Mel Daly? Yeah, Mel Daly. If you could, I'd like you to arrange a get-together now. It's urgent, and I'd like to meet him right away. I'll try to call him now and see what I can set up, and then I'll call you right back. That's all right. I'll come on in to Berkeley. I can get in this evening so you and I can meet over there. Meantime, try to set it up with Mel Daly for tomorrow. By the time I saw Rolling Thunder that evening, I had contacted Mel Daly and arranged for a meeting the following day. I had talked with Daly many times. Twice before, I tried to arrange for him to meet Rolling Thunder. Once, when Rolling Thunder was attending a big native meeting in Reno, I gave Daly misleading instructions. He came to Reno and waited 2 days for us in the wrong motel. On another occasion, when Rolling Thunder held his press conference in Caliente, Nevada, many people were driving up from San Francisco. I had arranged for Daly to ride with some people from the Committee of Concern for the Traditional Native and procured a room for him. But there had been a long delay in getting started, and Daly finally hadn't been able to go along. Now that Rolling Thunder needed Mel Daly's help, I wish they had first met under different circumstances, when Rolling Thunder was in better form. Since the benefit concert, Rolling Thunder had looked thinner, more tired than ever, and he seemed to be gradually losing his hearing. Yet he retained his high spirits, easy laughter, and steady enthusiasm. He had been up in Marin County and had heard nothing from him for days, and when he called me at Dolly Gazzotti's about making an appointment with Mel Daly, I knew that things must have taken a bad turn. I expected to see him looking more discouraged than ever, but in fact he looked surprisingly better. He was still thin, but his color had returned and his manner was calm and gentle. He had that benign look that I had seen in him before. We talked long into the night. I learned the details of how Rolling Thunder had realized the urgency of his condition and how he had gone into the woods to be alone, how he had been found in the brush, carried back, and cared for. He had told me about the young warriors who had searched for him, boasting that their native witch doctor could make him sicken and die. He told how the benefit money had disappeared from the office in San Rafael, and the efforts he had made to trace it. By that time, the lawyer was refusing to communicate with anyone or answer any questions. When Rolling Thunder was well enough, he planned to work on every level. He decided, to begin with, to ask the help of Mel Daly. Then he would call for Semu. If Semu could get away from his work in Southern California, he might spend a few days with Rolling Thunder. After the meeting with Mel Daly, Rolling Thunder and Spotted Fawn went with me to stay at Dolly Gazzotti's. Dolly would be away for 2 weeks at a seminar in Hawaii, and she offered Rolling Thunder the use of her house. It seemed the perfect place for him to be. High in the Berkeley Hills, it was in a quiet setting and difficult to find. We felt it was imperative that no one know where Rolling Thunder was. Rolling Thunder and Spotted Fawn spent much of the afternoon walking in the hills, and they came back with a variety of plants and herbs for a fresh salad in the evening. Maybe we'll see more raccoons tonight, I told Spotted Fawn. They usually come in just after midnight, sometimes 4 or 5 of them. They come right up to the door and we can feed them. Yeah, you ought to see 'em, Rolling Thunder agreed. They come right up here begging, looking like little masked bandits. Pretty smart little things. They learn fast. On the upstairs level, tall glass doors opened into a large sundeck in the trees. The raccoons had developed the habit of coming to peer through those doors at night to wait for crackers and nuts. I had brought Rolling Thunder here before. He had watched the raccoons as they devoured the evening handout and distracted them by his watching. They would stop still and stare back at him. Why do animals gaze so knowingly at a person's eyes? My sister had asked him. Why don't they stare the same way at one's hair or ears? How do they know what eyes are for? They don't know. They just feel it, Rolling Thunder said. Some people think seeing is just light coming in, but attention is a force that's emitted through the eyes, and it can attract or repel. That's why there's that sensation, that fixation, when eyes meet eyes. We stood on the deck and looked over Berkeley to the bay, Alcatraz, and the Golden Gate Bridge. It feels really good to be up here. This is just what I needed. To be up here above everything else. In this fresh air, sort of out of reach, yet among all these trees and birds with deer and raccoons walking around. This is a really healthy place. I hoped Rolling Thunder could stay for many days. He was looking rested already. The big contest isn't over yet. I mean, on a psychic level. By the way, I liked that Mel Daly. Had a good feeling about him. Now he'll contact the other lawyer, and we'll see if we can find out what's going on. But this money episode is secondary. I'm facing a spiritual problem, an effort to destroy us and the work of our group. So I've been thinking about that. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to call for Mad Bear. And that is the end of this chapter, my friends. Very short chapter, but next we'll be meeting Mad Bear, very interesting person. Niáwa, thank you for listening. Take care.